Will Miyazaki rehash Berserk or create an original vision for Miquella in the DLC? When Miquella eventually rises to his ultimate god form from his empyrean status, it is possible he will attain a Stormhawk form, similar to how Griffith is regarded as a hawk in Berserk. A direct thematic contrast to the mother of deathbirds, the twin bird of Negredo, currently infesting Godwyn, the most likely final boss of the Shadow of the Erdtree. Alluding to how deathbirds are symbolized by the twin bird, while Miquella will oppose the envoy beast in a Stormhawk form. Alright, now here's my drawing. I've recently finished this, combining Guts introspection from Berserk while adding cut content from Miquella. Some of you may know this. In the unreleased code, Miquella says, "In the new world of thy making, all things will flourish, whether graceful or benign." The full line goes as follows. young seedling, return to the bosom of earth, but remember well, thou art mine, so shall I give of myself, this is for thee, mine abundance, my drop of dew. Quench thy thirst throughout thy frame, blossom and burgeon time and again, grow larger, stronger, until the day cometh, when thou canst share in my dream. Elden Ring, O Elden Ring, beget order most elegant, from my tender reverie. If thou covetest the throne, impress my vision upon thine heart. In the new world of thy making, all things will flourish, whether graceful or malign. I want you to pay attention to the last part. Do you realize how Miquella accepts and loves all forms of life unconditionally without exception? Whether graceful or malign, they all have value, purpose, and function in the highest spiritual perspective. This is a multi-layered angle I've extensively explored in my Miquella the Rebel's Child episode, delving deep into the law of causality and regression, which forms the educational background taught by his father Radagon. Without understanding the Golden Order fundamentalism and concepts I discussed in that video, you can't make accurate predictions on what Miquella desires in the Shadow of the Erdtree. Now let's jump to the next unreleased code to decipher. Hailing from Raya Lucaria, these enchanted knights once belonged to the Carian royal family, but were later gifted to Miquella, recipient of the vision by King Consort Radagon. Miquella was the planned heir to Marika as the recipient of the vision. This is further reinforced by Gideon's line referring to how Marika was sorrowful in regards to Mohg's kidnapping. Remember Enya's words, Queen Marika is the vessel of the Elden Ring, carrier of its vision, a god in truth. This already creates a certain lens to view Miquella in, and sets him apart from all the other demigods in relation to the Golden Order. Radagon actively supported Miquella's Erdtree project by gifting those Carian knights. But this is not all. Let's continue our exploration. This alchemical progression we've discussed deeply with my viewers in my Farmazula episode is very important to realize to see the bigger picture of this DLC. The era of the dragons, Farmazula symbolizes Negredo, the first stage in alchemy. Marika's Golden Order represents Albedo, the second stage in alchemy. Finally, Miquella's new order of abundance, which will come to fruition with the creation of the purest unalloyed gold, will result in Rubido, the final stage in alchemical pursuit, the magnum opus, the creation of true gold. In the base game, Miquella is not in his true form, and will embark on a maturation period to arrive at the final stage of alchemy in the DLC. How? The mechanics of said maturation will occur by, in my opinion, Saint Trina, the alter ego shadow aspect of Miquella, being conjoined with his childlike body, to create the red tint of primordial gold, as alluded by Ordovis's great sword. Just like how Radagon and Marika is non-dually merged, same will happen with Miquella and Saint Trina, two bodies but one soul, also that they can create Rubido, the order of unalloyed gold. When looking at the cut content, one of the first things data miners and I noticed was the fact that a certain NPC named Raicho had been cut from the final version of the game. Now, Raicho was a unique NPC whose lengthy quest would have revolved around brewing and serving other NPCs stupefying alcohol and then collecting slumber fog floating around their sleeping bodies, which would then be distilled into dream brew, and that would give insight into various NPCs' backstories. According to his cut dialogue, Raicho was a self-professed servant of Saint Trina, whose crystal ball the player would utilize to collect the slumber fog necessary for his quest. At the culmination of this quest, it would become clear that Saint Trina was none other than Miquella himself. In fact, Miyazaki already foreshadows the plot twist in the base game with these two identical flowers. Miquella and Trina's lilies are exactly the same, alluding to their single god nature similar to Radagon and Marika, destined to merge non-dually when the time comes. Coming back to Raicho, he has a line in the unreleased code that makes it all that much clearer. Finally, I have found it. Saint Trina's, no, Lord Miquella's cadaver, such that I might aid you, O Lord. So please, I hope you can welcome your humble servant Raicho into your dream, the world of your heart. Indeed, I beg you grant my wish that when you transcend from empyrean to God, allow me a place by your side. It is clear at this point that we'll help Miquella's maturation process of empyrean to godhood in the DLC. There are more things I want to look at right about now. I'm sorry Miyazaki, you can call my lawyers, but we need to discuss this to be as thorough as possible. See, Miquella is Saint Trina, and Saint Trina has specialized in sleep affliction. Here is my question. Which enemy type or boss is extremely weak to sleep ailment in Elden Ring? Let me give you a hint. This enemy is so weak to sleep affliction that there are various videos on YouTube showing you how to win using sleep arrows or sleep pots. Godskin Duo that resides in Farmazula, the representation of death in the base game, alluding to Negredo's twin bird via Deathroot in the DLC. The servants of death are extremely weak against the sleep affliction, which is a foreshadowing of the DLC where the twin bird's Deathroot, corrupted shadow of the Erdtree, will similarly be extremely weak to sleep, the domain of Saint Trina's mastery. The twin bird is said to be the envoy of an outer god, the mother of the death birds. Now let me tell you why. Do you remember how I told you in the previous video that sleep was seen as a form of ego death in ancient Egypt in my previous video? This is a form of death that is highly fear-inducing for those who live in death, which will be the main opposition in the DLC. The eclipsed sun, drained of color, is the protective star of soulless demigods. It aids the Mausoleum Knights by keeping destined death at bay. The last part of this definition is extremely important. Keeping destined death at bay. They don't want to die completely but cling to the existence that is a spirit realm until their revival in the eclipse. Remember that these Mausoleum guards are willing Golden Order soldiers, beheaded themselves to protect Marika's soulless demigods in death. So they're actually helping Miquella's vision by protecting the demigods until their revival. In the DLC, the enemies we'll face won't share these same sentiments. Those who live in death fears destined death as the realm of Twinbird congeals the primordial aspects of life and death in a single dimension within its metaphysics, similar to the primeval Crucible lore. Permanent death alluded with destined death is similarly alluded with the ego death Saint Trina's sleep affliction provides for those who live in death. Now, in terms of damage type, obviously Miquella's Golden Order spells like the Litany of Proper Death will be the weakness of most enemies in the DLC, giving them a true death, preventing their existence within the spirit realm to ensue. At this point, I want to go full circle and answer the question if Miquella will simply rehash Griffith from Berserk, or if Miquella will be his own character. After my explorations into Miquella's education with Golden Order fundamentalism, I would say no. Miyazaki won't rehash Berserk and copy his character arc and intentions with Miquella. I'm not saying there won't be similarities. I'm not saying Miquella won't be, at least initially, antagonistic or an evil character. After all, he's tainted by Mohg's accursed blood, let alone his own eternal youth curse. And all of that is going to initially confuse the young Empyrean. But after we make him see some sense with a solid boss battle I'm sure Miyazaki will ace, we'll eventually get his great rune eluded by this Abundance and Decay Twin Blade, which is cut content by the way, and Miquella will eventually be his own character. Now I do see the item description in the Bewitching branch, how Miquella has learned very well how to compel such affection. Let's be honest here. This phrase at the end is either Saint Trina's corrupted form or simply alluding to Miquella's highly charismatic nature, similar to Griffith in Berserk. I don't think it makes sense to pigeonhole Miquella's character into a pure evil villain when so much of the evidence points to his fundamentally benevolent nature. Miquella, motivated by his father Radagon's fundamentalist teachings combined with the medicinal path of unalloyed gold he pioneered to cure Malenia and Godwyn from the curse of the outer gods, combining in a sense the pragmatic and practical side of America with the intellectual and spiritually developed side of Radagon, perfecting the next evolution of the Golden Order with his unalloyed gold. To prepare for Miyazaki's finale, watch my lore video analysis series here, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more content from me on your notifications. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.